Okay, people, I'm having mic problems, I'm having camera problems, so everything's going wrong right now. But I'm gonna make this video, and interestingly enough, the topic of this video is intelligence. So anyway, I don't want to jump into anything too crazy too quickly. I don't want to come off as saying my intelligence is superior to anybody else's, because I really do have issues with my intelligence. I have issues with how much information I can retain, with my memory, with how quickly I'm reading things, what my comprehension is like. So I have lots of issues. So when I say things like, let's talk about David Krakauer's quote that stupidity is far more common, I'm not using it in a way as an insult to anybody or being critical of anybody. I mean, sometimes that will happen. I'm a human being, so I have emotions. So I'll get angry at somebody and say, "Oh, you're stupid." But when I think of David Krakauer's quote from the Making Sense podcast, this was like years ago when he said that stupidity is far more common. I'm thinking about it as a matter of fact. I'm thinking about it as just the way the world is. And I don't want to say too much. I don't want to say, oh, human beings are so crappy and all this stuff. Even though I'm sure many of us, in fact, all of us have at some point thought, you know, people are dumb. Like I think we've all thought that, and I think we've all said it at some point. And even if you haven't said it yet, it'll come one day. It'll come. But David Krakauer's quote, I think, is just much more clinical. I don't think it was meant to be insulting. But like I said, at the same time, I do not want to promote myself as being a super smart person, because I'm not. I'm pretty average, if you ask me, by my own estimation. I've been meaning to take an IQ test for a long time, but I'm kind of frightened about what the result is going to be. I don't. I want to. I feel like I should wait till I'm emotionally ready to take an IQ test. And plus I want to research the IQ test and figure out an IQ test that is good. Because this one time I took an IQ test and it told me it was like this pop-up ad back when the internet had lots of pop-ups, and it was take IQ test, and it told me I was like at 120 or something. I never really trusted that, but like I mean, I did. It was sort of plus I was trying to like go through it really quickly because I was at work and I didn't want my boss to see me goofing off, so I was just kind of click 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 click. So it might have been a pop-up ad that that was just fishing for clients for more services or whatever, so they gave you a really nice number. But yeah, in terms of researching a really bona fide IQ test, I want to take my time and do that and then take it. And plus I want to feel comfortable and not anxious when I take it. So anyway, so when it comes to the human mind and what we're all capable of in terms of the pursuit of knowledge, I think we're all very limited to, use David Benatar's explanation of the pursuit of knowledge. We are constantly distracted. We're distracted by everything, by other people, by other objects in the environment, by our own minds. We're just completely always distracted, and we just have a limited scope of the world. Our brains try to go around that by making things up, so we have a mental view of the world that is filled in by your brain. So things aren't always what they seem to be. And I know, yeah, of course, whatever, we all know that. But I mean, I'm talking about in a very real way. There's lots of mistakes that could be made. There's lots of errors that could be made by just relying on your mind alone. And we tend to need, instruments and external apparatus to basically figure things out. And even then, one human being cannot know everything there is to know. We just have a limited mental capacity. We can't know everything. We can't even know what the rest of the species know. So it's, as much as information is transferable from one generation to the next or from one person to the next, we still cannot know everything one person knows or everything that there is to know. And that's just talking about small sections of our lives on the planet Earth. When you talk about the entire planet, the entire solar system, the entire universe, it's an impossible task. It'll never happen. So we're just not good at handling large amounts of information. So when it comes to the antinatalist context of saying that, well, one purpose of life is to know things, I agree with David Benatar. We just cannot know everything, and what we do know is a tiny sliver of what actually there is. I mean, we're not even a spacefaring species yet. I mean, the furthest we've gone is what, the moon, and that's it. Yeah, we haven't gone further than that. So, and I find it weird that we haven't discovered alien life yet. But yeah, we just haven't. So, intelligence is something that is a bit of a, and maybe I'm confusing the two things too, right? Intelligence and knowledge. I mean, but what is intelligence but knowing things? I forget who said that one, but anyway, we're just very limited, and it is a Sisyphean task to basically live your life in the pursuit of knowledge, and not to forget that you're distracted by your own mind, you're distracted by other people, that you're just constantly distracted by the world and life. That devoting yourself to pursuing knowledge is kind of impossible. It'll never happen. I'm not saying that we shouldn't pursue knowledge. I mean, that is how we will better our lives. That's how education is a way of bettering your life. But ultimately, you look at what we know, how we know, and you will come to the conclusion that we just don't know all that much. No individual can. And I've seen one YouTuber talk about antinatalism as as more of an individualistic kind of thing. Like we look at the suffering of an individual, et cetera, as opposed to the progress of the race. But I mean, even the progress of the race, you kind of have to wonder about. I mean, we're still all stuck here on this planet, like not knowing all that much. Like I mentioned, we can't even know from one person to the next everything there is to know. We could get close, but that's still only just a really small microcosm of everything there is to know. So it's just an impossible task, and I just wanted to finish up with the last part that so I got a little bit dark with that post on Spiralvent as well. I said, as much as we will die, we all die alone. It's a sure thing that we'll all die not knowing anything, or very little anyway. That's just what it will be. And if you start talking about transhumanism and all this stuff, that's I don't know how feasible that is right now. I don't know how feasible that will be. But even if you're talking about transhumanism, I think you're talking about something that isn't human anymore when it comes to human life. And for some, that's not really a frightening thing to think about, and for others, it's a very frightening thing to think about. Um, I think, I think some people try to get around the limits of knowledge by inventing things. So religion, I think, is one of those things that people try to use to circumvent knowing everything. Um, there was an interesting Bertrand Russell quote actually that a New Yorker journalist talked about, and it basically talked about. Well, he was referring to the quote as something he held close to his heart when he was a young kid, and he was kind of atheist. Um, I don't think he's not atheist anymore, but I think he's kind of loosened his grip a little bit. Um, Apparently, that's what's happening to all atheists. But the Bertrand Russell quote was talking about the way that everything we know, everything we ever hope to be and will be as a human race, will just be blasted to smithereens by some cosmological, crazy, disastrous event, and we will be no more. And the New Yorker columnist who held that quote near to his heart. I forget his name, but you could probably look it up. He said what that quote offered was basically a finality to life, and I think he said that replaced the religious convictions that he had previously. So I think the religion tries to create that same finality to life, that ultimate end, which is God, like that end, that solid knowledge that there is a finality, that there is something to end, the ultimate almost. At least that's the way I remember him saying it. Um, and I think antinatalism kind of plays. I'm very careful about this because I never want to say that antinatalism is like that quote or like the religion, because I do think that antinatalism makes sound logical sense. But I can see how antinatalism might offer an end, like a completion point, almost like the story's done. But yeah, I don't. I'm just saying that I understand how that type of thinking, but I don't. I don't honestly foresee the end of the human race. Like I just don't see it in an antinatalist context. So I don't use that in a way as to say that this is the end. But I do think it just makes logical sense. So that's the way I'm kind of wrapping my head around that. But anyway, I got sidetracked. So yeah, that's so knowledge is great and everything. Like we should pursue it. We should definitely pursue our educations and our degrees and everything like that. But it is just doomed to failure. It is doomed to failure. Just every single time. Like really. Anyway, that's all. Bye.